Well, hello, our favorite humans. Welcome to an episode of Bronx Tales with your host, Bronxy B, and me, I'm Logan. Thank you for being here. So, today I really just want to talk to everybody and chit chat about what's going on in the IDAHO4 case now. It seems like a lot of stuff is going on, but nothing at the same time. Like, it's really strange. It's as we're approaching this new, tell-all episode from the views of the friends and whatever that's coming out on Prime, and then just kind of waiting for the trial to start. I think we're all just kind of hanging on the edge of our seat for both of those right now. But some new stuff has come up that I do want to talk about, and that is the DoorDash driver. And she apparently says,
All right, so
I need to get it turned down.
yeah.
I've gotten one in the past.
Yeah. Okay, all right.
I'm friends with Bill Thompson. Take it to the motherfucking bank.
she's friends with Bill Thompson. Now, I think everybody saw this on either Plunder or Lana's Truth and Transparency channel. And I think that's interesting. Of course, she would have some sort of prior connection with Bill Thompson, being that he was the prosecutor in her husband's murder case. But to go as far as to say friends and still friends up to 2022 at least is strange. I would say maybe acquaintances 10 years ago at best. But for her to say that her and Bill Thompson are friends and to name drop that after she's already gotten a ticket is odd. I'm curious how often she talked to him still before the murders happened. And then the DoorDasher, we know that she has stated she doesn't DoorDash alone. And every single time she's been pulled over, she's had somebody in the car with her. So my question is, when she was DoorDashing, who was with her the night she dropped off the food at Farzana or 1122 King Road's order? Who was with her and what did they see? I could imagine whoever was in the car would be subpoenaed as well. But I'm just confused still because the prosecution said in their PCA that Dylan was the only living person that was a witness to who the perpetrator was. So now we have this DoorDasher coming out, and saying all this stuff. She's friends with Bill Thompson and, she's on meth and all sorts of stuff. It's really convoluted because Lana found out as well that she has a connection to a girl named Janelle Ivory Braun Davidson, whatever her name is. Now, this girl or lady is the one who used Molly's truck that we see in one of the body cam footages. She used Molly's truck, didn't have plates on it, and ran from the police, right? And I don't know if she knew this or not, but at the Washington border, the police stopped following her. So she basically ditched the cops. Now, I don't know why the cops didn't radio in for Washington Patrol to cover once she crossed the border, since she was obviously running from the cops for some reason. But they didn't. They just let her go. Now, I'm curious if this was the lady who wrote an email to Drunk Dodo. I'm curious if this lady was in the car with her, because coincidentally this lady worked at Jack in the Box. You guys, this case is literally insane. All of the connections, I know it's a small town, but it's not that small. It's not 5,000 or 500 small, right? In those towns, everybody's connected. This is like 25, 30,000 people and an entire university. For all of these connections to be in one case is really out of the ordinary. This is insane. This is crazy. So this Janelle who worked at Jack in the Box, her brother is Lars Braun, And tonight, Lana is going to go into his involvement in sex trafficking and possibly drug dealing and all sorts of stuff. On a completely different topic, my mom and I were talking this morning, literally about an hour before Lana's live this afternoon was posted, strangely on the same topic. And my mom and I were going back and forth and kind of doing a little experiment as far as how would Dylan hear a man in a mask in a different room say anything. He had a mask covering his mouth. At the best, it would be super muffled and hard to hear. So we were like, yeah, no, that we came to the conclusion that no, she didn't hear a man with a mask in a different room say anything, right? It makes me believe he either said it to her or she was watching. She was peeking, which leads me to, in the court documents, it says Dylan peeked out of her door 3 times. And I'm really confused that if you thought there was a party going on or that Kaylee was playing with her dog, what are you peeking for? Wouldn't you just walk out of your room? I'm not understanding what was going on to where you had to peek instead of just go see what's going on, right? If you thought it was Kaylee, if you thought it was a party, if you thought anything other than fear, why are you feeling fear to peek out of your door if it was just a party house and could have been a party or Kaylee playing with her dog? Why are you peeking? She also says he walked by the little wall. Now, Lana pointed this out as well. This is the little wall that she's saying he walked by, and the hallway, because in her room there's no hallway right there. It's like a little landing and that's it. It's a square. The only hallway really would be this hallway. And that means that I believe she was, as the same thing Lana says, she had to be peeking over that railing. And it makes me wonder, did she witness this? Did she witness what happened to Xana? Now, another thing that I would like to get your guys' opinion on is, do you guys think that the first floor door being open, a blood stain on the handrail, and the bloody glove found all the way down the driveway in the front, do you guys think that that was set up to make it look like there was more than one person? Or do you guys think there was more than one person? Because technically it could have been set up by anybody. I still just have a hard time believing that they sat in that house for that many hours with the doors open. I don't know, just things to think about. Now, the other point I wanted to make is at 4:22 in the morning, Dylan texts Kaylee and says, "What is going on?" To me, that says the crime is taking place right then. She hears something right as she's texting that, or she hears it and boom, sends a text message seconds later. So that to me fits with the timeline that this crime started at 4:17 when Murphy was put outside and started barking, and then continued to whenever Murphy stopped barking, or a little bit before that when he was brought back inside. She said, Dylan texts Kaylee and she says, "What is going on?" Present tense. What is going on? She didn't text and say, "Hey, what was that noise? Hey, what was going on up there?" No, what is going on? And that makes a big difference. Because if that was happening at 4:22, that means that white car speeding away again couldn't be the perpetrators. I mean, now it looks like the white car possibly could be the actual DoorDasher in a different car, maybe borrowing somebody's car, or so she doesn't keep getting pulled over and is high on meth and driving erratically, because that's, she has reckless driving and stuff on her record before. So we know that that happens with her. Now, a few things I want to talk about. One of them being, I'm not understanding how Brian Koberger could be the perpetrator when, by the prosecution and the state's own verbiage, they say that Brian Koberger connected to a cell tower that was within 100 meters from the 1122 King Road house. Well, 100 meters is over the length of a football field. 100 meters is more than the length of a football field. A football field is like 91 meters. So it's a longer distance than a football field. And they never said that he stops. So what could he possibly gain from driving by a house from over a football field away? He's not going to know who lives there, what cars are there, that's not enough information, and he was just driving by. There was no stopping. So I don't think that a person, especially a person in this field, is going to enter a random house they don't know the layout of, just pick a random house and go in there and do this. I just don't understand what he could possibly, or anybody could possibly see from 100 meters away. Now, I would understand if his phone connected to the tower that did service the house. His phone didn't ever even connect to the tower, the cell tower that services that house. He was never close enough. Never. Now, do I think it's strange that they are saying his phone was turned off between 3 and 5, which just so happens to be when the crime was committed? I do, but I also don't. He could have been somewhere where he completely lost service, number one. Number two, the place they have him driving from is not the place he was at. He was at a completely different location driving. So it doesn't really make sense. Now, there are about 6 or so-ish options we have as far as who committed this crime, and I'm very curious what option you guys think committed this crime. We have option number 1, which is that a random criminology student thought he could get away with murder, randomly went into a random house and unalived 4 people just to see if he could get away with it. That's our option 1. I struggle with that because in my mind I go back to, then where did the cleanup come from? Why didn't the roommates call? There's just so many questions. Number 2 is that the police either did it or are covering it up. I more so tend to lean towards covering it up for somebody that they might have DNA or DNA connected to somebody whose family is really prominent in the area or is involved with the college themselves or what have you. Which leads me to number 3, which would be the frats. They are very open about holding knives and carrying knives and wearing masks and all sorts of stuff. Another thing I question about the mask part is where I'm from, these masks are called pushiesty or shiesties. I don't know if that's just where I'm from, or I thought the younger generations all called these masks poo shiesties or shiesties. I didn't realize that Dylan didn't know the name of this mask. Where I'm from, it's a poosh iced tea. I guess other people know it as a balaclava. Balaclava? We know those as poosh iced teas. It struck me as odd that she never said those words. I thought that all younger generation knew that that's what they were called. Could just be where I'm from, I guess. Option number 4 is that this was a drug house. This was a drug house, and either the cartels were pissed or somebody wanted what was in there or something. Get off my territory, something. Number 5 is roommates. Were the roommates involved? Did they do this? Did they lure them there? One had eyes on 2 and the other had eyes on the other 2. As soon as they get home, this is what happens. The timing just is weird because it seems to happen not long after they get home, and then there's a cleanup and nobody calls 911. Strange. Number 6 is that it was a crime of passion. Did somebody want somebody else to not be here anymore because they broke up and were moving on? And that could explain why Murphy was left unharmed. Was this a crime of passion? Was Murphy unharmed and a person who knew the house came in with intent to harm one person and one person only, but Maddie was in the same room and they would be able to identify him or them. And then Xana was, maybe chased into her room, and then those two had to not be witnesses as well. I think they're all probable. They're all possible. They're all probable. I'm just curious which one you guys land on. Do you think it could be one random criminology student who wants to see if they can get away with murder? I find that hard to believe. I really do. And it's not about the person, it's just about the principle. It's what's missing from the court documents. Why are the police interviewing people, number 1, all together? Number 2, there is no details to the information in the questions that they've asked and the answers that were given. There are no details. There's no times. There's no what room were you in. There's no what did you hear? What did you see? Nothing. There's really not much to go off of from these interviews that police conducted with these people that were never considered a suspect. Never. Another question I have is, did the DoorDasher grab the food from Pullman? Was the food ordered from the Jack in the Box in Pullman? Because I got online and it says that the Moscow Jack in the Box is closed. I'm just not sure when they closed. Because it would be strange for somebody to order food from a different town when there's so many fast food restaurants, maybe not open at that time, but some of them are. You would think you would just pick one that's closer to where you live rather than a whole different state. I know it's not that far away, but it's still far enough. I would think that maybe somebody wouldn't pick it up at that time and bring it. Just curious how many people were in that car that did bring it. Because I'm telling you, she didn't park next to Brian Koberger, because he would have had to be there first for her to park next to somebody. Which means he would have had to be at that house in the front long before. And I don't think that happened that way. So which one do you guys think? Number 1, criminology student, random break in a house by himself and able to do this. I can't support that. I think that is crazy. Is it possible? Yeah, it's possible, but I think there would be more things to connect them to this. You know, even the judge said DNA is DNA every day of the week and twice on Sunday. Lots of guilters are going strictly off the DNA. DNA's got him, DNA got him, DNA puts him there. So for dinner, I want all of those people to eat one peanut. Because food is food every day of the week and twice on Sunday, right? Oh, you mean the amount matters? You don't say. Because the amount of Brian Koberger's DNA on that class is less than the DNA that would have gotten there from a secondary transfer. Somebody touching something of his and then later touching the knife sheath. Less than that amount. And that matters. That makes a huge difference. If it was covered in his DNA because he's had this knife for 9 months and he moved it across the country and he's had it for a long time and his DNA would be all over it. I don't think 8 months previous he's going to plan. I don't know. Is he gonna plan something? I don't know. I don't think so. I think his DNA would have been all over that knife sheath. Other than the knife sheath having less than a secondary transfer amount of his Brian Koberger's DNA on it, they have nothing else that connects him to that scene, to that house, to those people, to anything. Ashley Banfield, Nancy Grace, all those people are like, bombshell evidence, bombshell evidence. I haven't seen anything that even connects him to the crime other than his DNA being on the knife sheath. But then again, that still doesn't, because the amount for me and my brain isn't enough. It's less than a secondary transfer. So that's not definitive either. I think a bombshell would be testing the other DNA that's at the scene. You use genealogy stuff for Brian Koberger and his dad and whatever else. Why can't you use it for the same thing for other people? That would make a whole heck of a lot more sense. But I do think that Dylan not only saw the perpetrators, I think she saw one of them. She says that they were 3 feet from her. Does she know how close 3 feet is? I'm 3 feet away from my camera right now. I don't know if she knows how close 3 feet is, because she would be able to reach out and touch them, right? So then they would obviously know she's there, which then maybe she was in cahoots. I don't know, but I think that for her to say that she didn't recognize his voice, he would have had to say something close enough for her to hear it, because from another room saying it's okay, I'm here to help through a mask isn't doing it for me. It's just not doing it for me. And what do you guys think about this DoorDasher's connection with her friend and her brother and sex trafficking and all that good stuff? I think that's a strange connection as well. I just want to know how many people were in this DoorDasher car, because from the letter that Drunk Dodo got from this lady, it was the lady in the car and possibly a male. It looks like Molly McMichael drives around with James or Jimmy Mackey in the car to all of her stops. So was there 3 people in the car? Because that makes a difference as well. That timing is just not right to me. I do think it happened when Dylan was texting Kaylee's phone saying, what is going on? I think that's when it started. I think Murphy was let outside at 4:17 and then it started, which leads me to possibly a crime of passion, or definitely somebody who knew the layout of the house, who had been there before. I just cannot wait for this trial. I think it's going to actually leave us with more questions than answers. we're gonna hang on a couple of things and be like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. Now we know this. But I think it'll leave us with more questions than answers. I'm curious what you guys think about all of this. So do something nice for yourself today. Be kind, rewind. No, I'm just kidding. Be kind, but more importantly, be kind to your dog. Bye, guys.